So the last time, so we did the Shannon and Jorge thing, and Trent wasn't there. Do you want to tell me why, Trent?
Oh yeah, so I was taking a hike with my wife, and we're walking in Griffith Park, and we spotted a young golden eagle, maybe about a year or two old, and it was just standing under a tree. So we got closer and closer. I'm going to show you a picture here. We got closer and closer, and finally, we got about 2 feet away, and it wasn't moving. I'm going to show this to the camera. So can everyone see that golden eagle?
Yeah.
So it had a broken wing, so we called a park ranger, but I just picked it up with my bare hands, and it tried to bite all my fingers off. It did not succeed, so I can still animate, and we took it to a bird sanctuary. So hopefully it's fine. Yeah, but it was just standing.
Incredible, man. That's crazy.
It was kind of fitting. It's like 4th of July weekend, but I don't recommend it. I mean, it turns out eagles don't like being picked up by humans.
That's funny.
I
brought a competing Mexico hat.
Yes.
I'm trying to get a nice. Oh, I don't have it.
Bobby, do you have an America hat?
I have many America hats. I'm trying to get a picture. So like you're walking across Griffith Park, and you see an eagle just chilling.
Just sitting there.
Yep.
And we get the camera, and we start like slowly walking towards it, thinking it will fly away.
Yeah.
And it was just standing. It was kind of in shock. You know, it could have hit like a power line, or I mean, who knows? We're not too sure. But it's standing in the shade, and I was able to get like arm's reach away, and it still wasn't moving. So we knew something was wrong. So.
Man, that's nuts.
Yeah, but I think it's safe now. It was a young. It probably stood about 2.5 feet tall, though. I mean, it was huge.
Wow. Yeah.
And its talons, it looked like a velociraptor, like it wanted to slice my belly open.
I just got a text from Trent that day. He's like, hey, man, I don't know if I can make tonight's panel. I'm going to save a bird, an eagle, and take it to the bird sanctuary because there was like, he had like a broken wing. And I was like, dude, no worry, man, save that bird. And he's like, I might make it, but I probably won't. So we're going to the bird sanctuary. And I was like, yeah, that's okay. Cool, man.
Trent,
what am I gonna
Trent seems like that type of guy that he'll go out of his way to save a bird. I love that. Yeah.
Totally.
We couldn't leave it there. The coyotes would get it, and it was July 4th weekend. And the eagle, represents America. I was like, I can't just leave it there.
We have an eagle in the Mexican flag too, though. So.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I did it for Mexico.
Yeah.
You did it for Mexico.
Hey, so we should get started, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
It sounds like everyone.
Yeah, let's get started, guys. It's great to connect with you guys again. Trent and I are always talking about like having an open discussion with like everybody, so we can see your faces and hear your feedback and that kind of stuff. And so we'll do that soon. We hope you guys have like a great extended long weekend. It's great to see you guys again. But we're here. We're with Juan Pablo Reyes, and thank you for making it out and spending some time with us, man. We really appreciate it. Yeah, let's get started. Let's get going, man. I mean, I'm really interested to hear about your story and how you got into animation and Guadalajara. I looked it up and I tried to do my research, and that's not close. Not place.
Yeah. I'm excited to hear your journey too, JP, because we've known each other for a little bit now. We work together, and you're such a fun guy to have around the office, and I feel like you're always laughing, and I also feel like that a lot of people perceive like your position. I think of development exec, someone that works in development, as like suit and tie, very serious, and then I meet you, and you're like the most chill, relaxed, fun guy. And it's like, it's cool, man. I just love that about you. So we're really happy to have you here. And I also love that you were, when we got Rise Up started, you're one of the first guys that reached out and said, how can I help? How can I hook you up with Latinx? How can we get the Latin community in this? So thank you for being here.
Yeah.
No, of course. Yeah. I mean, do you want me to start from the beginning?
Yeah.
When were you born?
I What was
Yeah.
it like on the day that you were born? I'm really interested. Really interested, JP, of like, what was it like, growing up in Guadalajara?
Yeah. Well, Guadalajara, for those that aren't super familiar, it's a huge city. So it used to be the third biggest one. Now it's number two. So it's just behind Mexico City in number of people, which is crazy. So I grew up. I'm a city boy. I grew up in like a very like big place. Yeah, and I've always loved animation. I'm the youngest of four, and I'm way younger than my siblings, and so like Disney movies were kind of like my babysitter. A lot of people probably relate to that, and Sleeping Beauty is the one I watched over and over again because my mom had that VHS, and that was her favorite movie, so she would play it like over and over and over again. So and something I like people that know me here already know I love Sleeping Beauty. I love the three fairies. I think they're the protagonists of that movie. I think people don't give them credit just because they're not like the pretty princess, they're like three like middle-aged women that like go into the woods and take care of a baby and then they save the day at the end. So that's when like Sleeping Beauty is not a feminist movie. I'm like, I know the princesses were still like evolving and all of that, but no one's paying attention to them. So I I invite people to watch that movie again. Anyway, Sleeping Beauty was big. My first memory in the movie theater was Beauty and the Beast, and I was that kid that was like 5 years old. I'm like, I want to be a Disney animator, and then I drew like little pictures and stuff, and I sent them to Disney at one point, and they did reply, and they're like, keep doing it, and then I didn't because I don't know. I
Wait,
guess I didn't have the patience. There's a person that you guys that are artists, you probably know this. There's a person because if you, there's the talent you have, right? But then there's also the personality of like that type of person that like is really invested in the art form, and you're doing it and doing it and doing it again, and like practice makes king. And I just didn't practice enough. That's just the reality of it.
I
I
I love that like you go to the effort to send it to Disney. They actually write you back, and then you're like, no, I'm good.
no.
yeah.
Yeah, keep going. I'm good.
Dude, that's exactly what I thought.
I love
But
it.
you know how they have I don't know, Trent, you've seen that they actually featured it in the Frozen documentary where they have like the little letters from the kids.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like in the entrance of the building. And I'm like, oh, I sent one of those letters back in the day. So it's kind of cool that they actually have those.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, well, anyway, I grew up to be a boring engineer, and that is also no offense to engineers. I actually really am very proud of my title. I have my diploma, and people will never take that away from me. But yeah, I grew up to become an engineer also because of the family dynamics that like a lot of people might like relate to. But my father is an engineer, my brother's an engineer, so I come from that family. And anything that was a lot of artists can relate to this even more than like people in development. But when you try to do something different, they're like, oh, you're gonna like be like hungry for the rest of your life. And that happens I think in every family, but like in Latin American cultures I think it happens even more. Like I have heard that from a lot of people, that is like, oh, you can't really do that, you can't really like go into the arts or whatever. So that kind of like put like the final nail in the coffin for me, and I studied engineer. I do love math and I'm pretty good at it. So it's not like it was the end of the world, but I was just not really passionate about it.
Hey
And then
JP, was
sorry.
that sorry to interrupt? Was that your high school like that was kind of encouraging you to go towards engineering, or was it like your parents, were they kind of supportive of the arts?
No, it was my father, the one that was like, "You need to be an engineer." I love him, and at the end of the day, he did support me to like make the change, but
Yeah.
it took a while. Like there were a lot of things that happened in the middle. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned high school because in high school it was called the Cervantes Costa Rica. Anyone that's like from Mexico might know of it, and in the last year you have to choose kind of like a path. So it's like in the last year you go to the sciences or the arts or like philosophy and Spanish and like they divide you like in modules like the last year. And when I was in the fence, I'm like, do I want to do the art one or do I want to do the engineering one? And then I ended up doing the engineering one, and the rest is history. But in my yearbook, actually, one of my best friends wrote is what is it? An artist trapped in a freed engineer or something like that. But like for me, like I was always that type of guy that was kind of like in the middle of both worlds. It's like I couldn't decide between like left brain or right brain.
Hmm.
So and that's very much been like a big part of like my narrative in life, just in general.
Hard at like 16 or 17 years old to choose a path too, right? Because you haven't necessarily tried it. And like once you choose that path in school in Mexico, is it easy to switch, or are you kind of en route then to finish that path?
It's no, it's very yeah, you know, I guess I just never really considered switching because I was getting good grades and I felt good about it. And at the same time, I know that my dad would just not approve. You know, it's I we're talking about us recently in like a group. You know how we have like the like a Latinx group in Disney. We're talking about like family pressure, and we're talking about my father. Like I love him, I adore him, but it was very much like it was a lot, you know. It was like, what do I do, you know?
Mhm.
So I never really considered switching, to be honest. I only looked at the arts as like a little hobby, and even though I like stopped like I left molding and sculpting and like playing with like plastiline and those type of things, and I took it very seriously for a while. And it was
Mhm.
kind of like my side hobby or like a way to express myself without like having to pursue a career in that.
And was the goal at that point still Disney? Like, did you ever consider like Imagineering as an engineer and someone that likes sculpting?
You know, it's funny because I actually did enter it's called Imaginations Contest. I don't know if anyone knows about it, but it's an Imagineering like open call for people that are in the university. And I actually applied, and I had like a very lousy concept that I'm not going to talk about here, but I did. You guys know SketchUp. I did like a whole like virtual thing on SketchUp, and it was kind of cool actually. But so I did like Imagineering did cross my mind. I was still very much like focused in entertainment and Disney and all of those things that I loved so much.
I want to see that one day. I want to see your SketchUp.
Sorry, like forgive my ignorance. What was the branch of engineering that you went into in your family?
Oh yeah, so it's industrial engineering, which is really it's the cousin of like business, you know, and it's basically I like to say that it's the same as producing, to be quite frank, because it's making
Really?
more with less. That's the whole
Oh,
agenda of an industrial engineer. So
interesting. Yeah.
it's really about like maximizing everything through a process. So that's what a producer does. So
Hmm.
Oh, interesting.
You know, JP, something we have in common, which I'm just finding out, is my dad and my brother are also industrial engineers.
oh, there you go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And my dad is actually a chemical engineer,
Oh,
and and then my brother is industrial engineer. But you know what's interesting about my dad? And like, of course, we figure it out, and we're like love each other, and we're like in a good place. But like, it's funny because he put all of that pressure, and he was pretty strict about all of those things. But at the same time, he came from a family of doctors and lawyers, and like you need to remember that he grew up like it was like the 70s and 80s, and he being an engineer then was weird and uncommon, and like he ended up like working in tech. Like this is in the 70s where like computers were new, all of these things were different, and he, now that I think about it, we're like way more similar than we are different, you know, because he also like took a left in his career path of like what his family said was the right thing to do. So that's actually something that's pretty interesting now that I think about it.
That is interesting.
So now the
Yeah.
crossroads comes. There's this
Yeah.
crossroads of you have a family of engineers and you decide that you, and I read a little bit about like your background, but you decide that you want to go into the entertainment industry, and you want to, after, was it like a course that you took in USC?
Yeah.
But then you pivot 180, and you want to go into making films, making movies, making TV shows. How did they react to that?
So that process, you know, it was little by little. It was incremental. It wasn't like from day to night. It's like, you know what, like F all of this. I'm gonna like do what I want. Like it was not like that for me at all. I think maybe now I'm that type of person where I can like be like a little bit more bold with my decisions. But back in the day, I wasn't like that
When
at
we're
all.
young, yeah.
I needed to dip my toe in the water a little bit, and so that's what I did. I graduated from engineering, and then I actually worked as an engineer. I was a planner buyer for Hewlett Packard for 2 years,
Mm.
and then that's when it's like I can't with this, and a lot of it was the output of the work because it. I mean, listen, I think printers and computers are very important, but like I just didn't care as much if someone had a printer in their house. And that was kind of like my life's goal, right? Like I was like there like putting together inventory, like shipping stuff from Asia into Latin America. And then I was like, but at the end of the day, everything I'm doing is for someone to have a printer in their house, which people don't do anymore, by the way. So it's like
That's altruistic. That's fine.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You know, JP, I think in our Rise Up community, and I think, you know, it's super relatable for all of us, is that there's a lot of people that go to school for something else, and, you know, they're 24, 25 years old, and they think it's too late to jump professions. So, I mean, can you touch on that feeling at all?
yeah, so it's kind of what happened to me actually. I was like, well, that like ship has sailed, right? Like there's nothing to do. But you know, like I that's kind of like one of the wisest things that I could have done is like I actually went to therapy. I need to talk to someone about my life goals because I'm doing something wrong and I don't feel fulfilled, you know? And it started to become that type of thing where it's like it's better to take a big risk and fail than to never take it at all. And like I was like kind of like fast a lot of things were going on in my life by the way, but like I was like fast forwarding years ahead and I'm like nope, this is not the life I want. You know, it's not where I as a kid would have wanted to end up. So I went to therapy. She helped me. Like a really cool exercise actually for anyone that's considering this type of thing is she's like write down like four scenarios for you, four realistic scenarios of stuff you can actually do that would make you happier than you are right now. And like I think one was like
Interesting.
restaurant business or something like that. Like they're like very different, right? But it was kind of like, but that kind of that really like set the tone for what I was about to do because that encouraged me to try different things. And that's something I every time I speak to in public or whatever, I encourage people to try because that's the only way you can figure out where the intersectionality of what you're good at, what you like, and what's practical, like intersect, you know? And like that's very engineering of me to say, but it's true. Like it's like dipping your toe in the water. So what I did is took a course in Maya because I'm like, well, maybe I do want to be an animator. And then like I have so much respect for what you folks do because it like really reiterated that I do not have the patience for it. I was like trying to model something in Maya. I'm like, oh hell no. Like this is something that like other people are like really good at. And like that's just not my calling. And then I was still working, so I was Universidad de Guadalajara. Anyone else that like knows of those universities has I would like I like live in the south of the city, and like every Saturday I used to like to party back in the day. So I would like go out on Friday, and like it was like 8 a.m. classes on Saturdays on the other side of the city to like go and take like a full on like every Saturday class, full day of like film and TV and like production and like figuring out if that's what I wanted to do, you know, because I've always liked animation, I like storytelling, I like film and TV, but I didn't quite know what part of it was like the one that I could fit into, you know. So it was like taking Maya, taking that class, taking I was like helping a friend that had moved to LA before, like produce a couple of shorts. I like volunteered to be like a director's assistant for like an indie movie that like we didn't even have all of the permit. Like it was, you know, but it was like the only way you can know is if you put yourself out there, you know. And I feel like that's what I tell everyone is like, if you don't give it a shot, you won't know.
Right.
Hey, JP, do you remember like how long that kind of trial and error process was? Like, did you give yourself a time limit, or did you just say, I'm gonna try all these things and see what happens?
Yeah. You know that I guess it was like a year and a half. Where it was like heavy on trial and error. At that time, I also had a contemporary art magazine. See, I was all over the place. But with like my brother-in-law and like I was like, also, huh?
You're like Forrest Gump.
Yeah. But
Gump.
so I had a contemporary art magazine because I love art as well, and that's kind of why I love animation so much, because I mean photography, I love to say to people, yes, photography is an art and all of that, but I really love the intersection of like this type of like visual, like handcrafted art and storytelling that animation brings you, you know. It's to me it's just wonderful and inspiring and cool. So I love art and I love storytelling. So I was doing all of that type of stuff. But the big discovery for me was in those Saturday classes I was taking, because I was like, okay, I guess I don't love being on set, and like I don't want to be a director. I don't want to be a DP. Like I don't want to be an editor, because that's the cool thing about those classes. You get to do a little bit of everything. But I'm like, I really love this part of it where like you're discovering the story. Like I don't know what it is, like figuring out what movie you're gonna tell or show or whatever it is. And it's like I learned about this thing called creative producing or creative development. And then like writing is like right there next to it, right? So a friend told me about this USC program that I ended up going to, which I can't recommend enough if anyone is like that type of person that loves these type of things. It's called the Peter Stark Producing Program. And like very much what you do is you dive into that part of the process where it's discovering the story. You have story analysis classes, you have screenwriting classes, and then you have a little of indie producing too. So you have budgeting and scheduling, you have all those practical things. And then I got in and I'm like, okay, I take this like a sign from a higher power, whatever you want to call it. And then I came over here, you know, and but it was all through that process of trial and error and like finding where I actually fit in.
Yeah, that's, you know, what I find like super interesting about your journey too is that like you knew you wanted to work, you know, in entertainment or at Disney specifically. And I think we have a lot of people that go through this where they find out that they might not have that talent of drawing or the patience of drawing, like you said, but they still want to work in the industry. And like, how did you find out that other roles existed? Because I feel like there's a misconception out there that if you don't draw, you can't work in animation, but that's not true. I mean, we talked with our production managers last week, and they all have talents and creativeness, and they apply that to production management. Some of them draw on their own. Like, how did you find out that you can take all those skills and your creativity and bring it to animation?
Well, a big part of it was like taking those classes, and another one is, you know, research and reading books. And like there's a book by the guy that Larry Turman, who is the chair of the Peter Stark producing program, which I ended up taking. He wrote a book about it, you know. So it's read books, be curious, do your research, talk to people to learn about what they do. Look at the credits, you know, I'm actually not joking. Like, if you grab like a movie and look at the credits at the end, and you're like, oh, what is that role? And like, look it up and like look for these people on LinkedIn. Like be curious, you know. I would encourage people to be curious in their research and be curious in what they try and like what they put like action to, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good tip. Curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
JP, one of the things is like, and then I can certainly relate to this. We can talk mano a mano, but like once we find what we want to do, there's a lot of like hurdles and challenges along the way, right? So it's like, you know, like once you've decided, like this is what I want to do with my career. Like we all have. I mean, what are some of the challenges that you've come across, and how did you like overcome those challenges? Because I'm assuming there's a ton. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first one that comes to mind, quite honestly, and I don't want to get too much into this because it's a very complicated thing, but it's like visas. They're horrible, you know? It's like, even when you come here as a student, and I actually read stuff that like they're like not even allowing student visas right now because of the online thing. That just like hits my heart, because it's like, these people put so much effort and time and go above and beyond to like get into a university or whatever, and now they're like sending them home. But I'm not gonna get political, but yeah, visas are complicated, and if you are an international student right now in the US, or you're graduating or you've graduated, look into it. Don't stress yourself, but like start looking into it, because every path is different. I literally have so many international friends, and all of their paths to getting their visa are different, you know. There's so many options. They're all terrifying and hard. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but there's a lot of different cases. So there isn't like a magical recipe of like, how do I stay in the country, unfortunately, you know. I'll be honest, and I'll tell you guys, I got married. so it's like, when people is like, how do you stay in the country, like my joke is like, you should just start swiping when you get off the plane. But make sure it's real love, because it's very hard to fake it. I would have never faked it. Like, it's like, after going through the process, I'm like, we're still happily married, and I love him so much. But it's yeah. Start swiping, everyone. Yeah.
You know what, JP?
If there's a thing to this channel, it's start swiping.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say that when we post this to Instagram, we'll just cut to that right away. Start swiping when you get off the plane.
Yeah. Yeah, I had the Miley Cyrus like Party in the USA song in the background, and I was just like on Tinder. But
that's awesome.
You know, but yeah, well, that's a hard one, right? The other ones, well, what can I say? Like, we like Rise Up is all about like underrepresented minorities and all of that. And that is a harsh truth of it too. Like, when you are different, and like when you do have like a different point of view, or I mean, listen, it's like, even like the names. When you have like a name in Spanish, I don't know if they look at my resume the same way, you know, like, to be honest, you know. And it does feel like you need to like I don't know. Also for me, like this might just be very specific, but my accent has been a thing. You know, like I've done research for projects on accents, and like because I'm very passionate about it. And I heard from someone that I worked with at one point that they couldn't fully understand me, and that like they would have been like they were like super surprised that I could give good notes. Like it's like, and that like crushed me when I like heard that. And it's like hard because it's like when you're international, it doesn't matter if you're Latinx, if you're from France, if you're from wherever. Like I feel like you're from a minority group, you know, and like you are like going through like so much. You're carrying so much extra baggage because you need to kind of like prove yourself to stay in the country. And then you like English is not your first language, and people sometimes will say that they don't understand what you're saying, and like sometimes you'll phrase things differently, and like your notes are maybe like the sentence is maybe not the most polished thing in the world, but at the end of the day you cannot let that hold you back, you know. So stuff like that was hard. Yeah.
How do you, JP? I mean, that sounds like a real struggle. And like, just from being around you, I know you're such like an outgoing guy and talkative and friendly. And like, did you find that like you kind of use that to meet people in the industry and to yeah, I don't know, just to get friendly with people in the business?
You know, I really like that you bring this up because to me this is something very important for shy people out there. Because I would say, I mean, I'm opening up quite a bit here. I like there's a lot of people, and but you know, I wasn't an outgoing guy. Like when I was like a kid, I was super shy. I had social anxiety. You know, like there were like some things that like helped me overcome it. But when people like love to pigeonhole people in like the extrovert or introvert kind of categories. I mean, I'm sure there's like books about that and there's like science about it, but I don't think it's as black as white as people make it seem to be, you know, because I know I've struggled with it. I'm who I am today because I've had to go through a lot of things to get me to be like that friendly, outgoing guy, you know. And it takes like listen, I was 5 years old. It was like my birthday, and like they had like a very there was actually a Mickey Mouse because I love Mickey Mouse, and it was like a very like non it was like a Hollywood Boulevard type of Mickey Mouse that came to like my birthday party, and like there was like a little stage. I was like, oh, like the little kid should go on the stage. I was terrified. I don't like being the center of attention. I had a hard time socializing. That was just my nature. And then my sister ended up going on stage, so that's that story. I just couldn't like overcome that. But you know, it's like again, you need to put yourself out there to overcome those things. I took improv classes. I listen. I guess I was social 101 by the time that I had to network and like find the people that would help me out in the industry. But I had a really hard time coming up to a stranger like after a panel or like in a networking event. It's like, hi, I have something to gain from you, can you like talk to me? Like to me that was like the most awkward thing in the world, but you know what, I did it. I really needed to get over myself, and like I really, you know, it's like this is how the industry works. It's really tough. Like I am shy. Like a lot of people don't believe me when I say that I am shy. But I just need to ignore that part of me and like just be my genuine self. Also, that's another big part. Like the more I discover that I can be myself and like I'm unapologetic of who I am, the less I care about those things too. So again, it's a learned skill, you know, because I know that a lot of people in animation tend to be like more on the shyer side. So I always like to encourage them to learn that skill because I really think it's a skill. It's not only a personality.
Mm-hmm. You know, JP, that's so great that you phrase it that way, because I think you're right. I mean, it is a skill. It's something all of us have to work at. You know, I feel like most of our studio is half introverted. You know, at least we're all kind of split down the middle. And yeah, thanks for opening up about that, because I think there's a lot of people in that same position as you.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
No, yeah, I agree. And then another thing is, it's that pride of who you are, right? And like it's another of the hurdles that you were asking, Bobby. But I guess by the time I moved to LA, I was pretty proud of my identities, But and like I do fight to have representation in my identities, but it's because I want to, and it's because I like them and I own them, And for me, there's like several of them. There's of course the Latinx part of it. Then there's like the from Mexico part of it, and the international part of it. So I always like to support the Latinx community. I love to support the Mexican community. I love to support the international community. And then on top of that, I also happen to be gay. So the LGBTQ community is also very important to me, And I try to bring that with me to work. And like people are like, is it like hard to be the one voice in the room? Yes, it is, but it also gives me a sense of pride, because it's like, well, if it wasn't me, there would be no one here, So I'm like, that's where I'm like, no, 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 no. I
I
can't
love
be
it.
shy. I need to speak up. I need to be participant in these
I love it.
conversations.
I love it, man. I love it.
Well, because I deeply care for it, and like it's so it's that type of stuff that I'm always on the look for, those type of voices that I feel will bring that perspective and that point of view. And then of course for me it's LGBTQ, Latinx, Mexican, and I like to say that that immigrants are a minority group, even though people don't really talk about it that way, because we have so much in common that I'm like, that's a minority group right there.
Mm-hmm.
But then other than that, I guess when you're like a part of so many minority groups, you just want everyone to be represented, right? And I feel like I've always been that type of guy. Like I like, it's not to like pat myself in the back or anything, but it's like I think it's important. And like when you're a part of other minority groups, you should cheer the others as well. It's like, that's why like I look for African American voices all the time. I look for female voices all the time. And those are two groups that I'm not a part of, So it's like when you're a part of one minority, I feel like you should just be supportive of like all of the unrepresented voices. And that's why I really like what Rise Up is doing as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, JP. I love, and the position you're in and all your passions you bring to that. I mean, you're in the room where it happens, to quote Hamilton.
Yeah.
And it's very, very passionate guy.
Yeah.
Man, that was awesome, man. And like I think everything that you're representing at Disney Animation, I think they're lucky to have you, man. That sort of inclusivity, because we had never met before, interfaced before, but like talking to you now, I mean, I'm so excited for the future of like, like storytelling and filmmaking, like at that studio, so yeah, thanks for sharing your story. I also was kind of wondering too, like, what have you come across, like, because that you are who you are, and I am who I am, and have you come across like any challenges, like when you were trying to break in, and what those challenges were of just kind of your identity and your culture and that kind of stuff? What do you think, JP?
There's something very interesting, because I had always, not to say that I don't want to do like specific Latinx content, because I do at some point in my career, but I feel like when you're a part of a minority group, people just expect you to only do that type of stuff. And which is crazy, It's like, well, any like Caucasian people have been telling everyone stories for a really long time. Like, why can't like a Mexican tell a Caucasian story, So so that part of it is really interesting. But yeah, I feel like when you were graduating, it's like, well, I guess you better look for opportunities in like the international part of the studio, or like you should look for opportunities in like Mexican production companies and stuff like that, which I'm fine with. And like I actually I do want to make content in that space, but it was kind of funny how like people like to like pigeonhole you just based on that one identity, you know? Which is like, again, you should bring your identities and be proud of who you are, but you shouldn't be limited by your identities, you know? And that was something that I observed that I thought was pretty interesting.
So how did you get past that kind of pigeonhole feeling on your way to Disney?
By working really hard and like by putting yourself out there. And again, I go back to those moments where this is like really useful for everyone, but like again, it's that shyness and overcoming that shyness and like networking and like trying to talk to people that like are doing the type of stuff that you envision yourself doing, you know? So I would go to those networking events. I would go to those panels. I remember particularly one in like, it was like an animation magazine like event. And I like begged them to give me like the student rate because again, I went to film and TV production program, but it wasn't animation specific. When I graduated, I was like, I mean, overall, I like that part of the industry, like the storytelling side of it, but it can mean 100 things, you know? So I also interned like in 5 places. So I interned around, but I never interned in an animation place of all things when like I actually really wanted to do that. Yeah. So when I graduated, I'm like, okay, you need to like meet people in like 4 quadrant entertainment because I really loved like the Disney brand, and it could have been Marvel and stuff like that too, which I consider 4 quadrant. And then there's the animation part of it. So I started like putting myself out there, like going to those places. Like I got the student rate for that like event. They still charged me though because I didn't want to be a volunteer. Because if you're a volunteer, you can't really like interact with the guests. You know, it looks weird, I guess. So I'm like, no, I want to go as a guest so I can actually talk to these people. So there I was, like super awkwardly, like walking around with like a Bloody Mary. It's like, oh, so you work at DreamWorks? Oh. And that's kind of how I did it, you know? It was
Bloody
like,
Mary detail.
yeah. And that's kind of how I did it, to be honest. And that and like going to those events and then like cold emailing people. Like I literally I pride myself on being a wizard on like Google. Like I'm really good at like finding stuff, and like I can find people's emails. You know, it was like, okay, I would love to speak to this person, and then like I would find them and then I would email them. Again, but if you're ever going to do this, you need to be specific, simple, and nice, you know? And so 2 paragraphs at the most, because if people open up an email and it's 10 paragraphs, they're going to delete it immediately. That's just the reality of human nature. Like, I'm just being frank. But if it's 2 paragraphs and the title for me always says, well, I was like USC. So I was like USC grad looking for a mentor. So that was also that was always what I was putting on the subject line. And people love to be mentors. Like, are you kidding me? Like it honors them that like you're looking for them. Like if you put looking for a job or like it seems like an inconvenience for people, they're like less likely to respond, right? Mm-hmm. So I would. And then, like, in the body of the email, like, make sure that you know who these people are and you're not just, like, emailing random people. Like, praise them for their work or, like, why you're contacting them in the first place. Then tell them why you want to connect with them. Like, what is, like, your objective? And at the end of the day, say, I would love to, like, jump on the phone for 30 minutes to pick your brain. Like, that's it, you know? But again, I love to say targeted networking because I feel like people sometimes get confused and just network with anyone. And that's when it gets very awkward and like it backfires and like it's going to be unpleasant for you. It's going to be unpleasant for the person because you don't really know what you're talking about. So pick the people you want to talk to, you know? That's another like piece of advice of things I did.
Juan Pablo, that's such a good tip because I feel like schools don't talk about this, which I wish they did, you know, because it's such an important part of networking. And I know, like, personally speaking, I'll get a lot of messages that are just like, here's my demo reel, check it out. And there's no like personal anecdote. Like, I want to know who you are. I want to know why you're interested in this. I want to see that you're hungry, so that the feedback that I take time to give, I know that it's gonna, you know, get a response. And it's amazing to see the amount of LinkedIn or Facebook messages that are just like, here's my stuff, check it out, thanks. And it could be a copy and paste mail, you know, you don't know. But the personal ones I always try to get back to, for that reason.
Me too. Me too. If it feels specific and it feels like, also some people are like, here you go, a horror script. I'm like, do you even see what I do on LinkedIn? like why are you sending me a horror script? Number one, I cannot take unsolicited submissions. Number two, I work at Disney Animation, you know? So it's like, that's when you can tell, it's like, why are these people even messaging me? But if it's someone like, hey, I came across your profile. I'm also from Mexico. I love animation. I will probably respond to you, you know, but it's like make sure that you're connecting with the right people.
Right.
After this call, I got a horror script I got to send you.
Right. So I wanted to reach out to the community and read you a little bit, JP, of the questions that we have that they submitted in the Q&A section. And so I'll start with Malik Fortu, and he asks, what was the pivotal moment in your career that enabled you to rise into your current role?
You know, and sorry,
You
I'm
know,
just kind of, sorry, do you mind if
ahead.
I add too, because I think that's such a great question.
Yeah.
Is your current role, was that your goal the whole time? Like, were you working towards that kind of like main goal, or were you finding it along the way?
You know, if you had asked my 5-year-old that, like, my current job was my main goal. Like, it's what I kind of like say with pride is, like, I'm that 5-year-old that kind of, like, a lot of you people that are like working in Disney, like, it's the same thing, right? Like, it's like working at Disney was probably your childhood dream. Like, that is, like, to me, that like just takes like a lot of like pressure off my shoulders. Like, at least I can like die and say I did what I wanted to do, you know? Now what I'll tell you is, in the process I did like fall in love with like storytelling, like more in general terms, you know? So I wouldn't say like that's the only thing I want to do. Like, as you can tell, I'm a very curious guy, so I like to try different things. I like to make like a left turn, a right turn, because it's one life, you know? Like, and I'm excited about doing that type of stuff. But in many ways, you could say that was my goal. Like, if I had come to LA and I hadn't like landed a job at Disney Animation, then maybe I would have always been thinking, what if, you know? And that's like, that's the worst thing that could happen to you, you know, where like you regret that you didn't even like go for it. So everyone go for it. Like, that's what I would encourage you. But I guess another big part where like it was like a big pivotal moment for me, those years in Amazon Studios, which we really didn't talk about that much, but they were really great. I had like a great team. Like, I had a lot of mentors that I worked with. Like, I started there as a coordinator. Everyone was so nice. It very much felt like a startup, because we were like at the time like 6 people, and then it grew a little bit more, but it felt like a startup, and they would like let you be very hands-on, but you also had to have the initiative of being hands-on, right? So another thing that I tell people is, when you see an opportunity, just grab it, you know? It's like, just go for it, like, try to shine, think outside the box of what you do with those opportunities, you know? Some of them are not as obvious. Like, I'll say that, I'm thinking if I should say this or not, but like, there might have been like a project that someone wanted to pursue, and I knew, again, this is where like you use like the groups that you belong to and like what makes you unique and different. But it was a Latinx project that didn't feel quite right. Like it felt a little bit insensitive. But like if you weren't a part of that community, you would have never known. So what I did is I flagged it for them, and they actually decided to not like proceed with the project. But that's where I could have stopped, right? But like that, like also what I saw was an opportunity, because I saw that they obviously had a hunger of developing something that was like Latinx related. So what I did is I ended up like going on Amazon.com and like looking for like the top 10 bestseller like Latinx kids books, you know? I was like, well, if it's not that project, like what project can I bring to the table that we could actually develop? So it's like when you see an issue or something, like find the opportunities, think outside the box, think about how you and your unique personality and who you are can bring value and can be additive of things other people don't have. And this doesn't necessarily need to be only like race, ethnicity, gender. Like it can be other things, like being an engineer, you know, or like maybe I took like circus classes when I was 18, and like because I understand that world, then I can bring something to the table, you know. I like to talk about diversity as diversity of thought. Like I think diversity like goes way beyond like the usual things that we talk about. Like I feel like we're all very diverse and different. Like of course there's all of the stuff that like some people are more privileged than others depending on what it is, but like that like when it comes to like point of view and way of thinking, like just bring your whole self to the table and find how you can add value and what makes you, you know.
Mm-hmm. I like too that you kind of brought a solution to the table there too, and I love that mindset you have of just, and I've heard this in the past with, you know, other people at Disney, like Patrick Osborne, you know, to name someone. It's just like that, just put yourself out there, apply to stuff, put your work forward, because you never know. Apply for that program that, you know, is announced, be ready for that opportunity, and it sounds like you were doing that kind of all along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this part of like being yourself, I mean, again, I'm not an artist, but I think it applies, and you folks can speak to it more, but it's like I feel like it's better when like someone is just putting their full self in their art, you know, and it has a very unique point of view, and like they're bringing that diversity of thought because they're bringing all of those elements of who they are into their art. And it actually shows, you know, and it's less about imitating someone else than like creating your own like specific point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
How important was that mentorship for you at Amazon? Like, I mean, that small team environment sounds pretty cool because you can maybe get opportunities you wouldn't get elsewhere. That startup mentality. Like, how important was that for your first opportunity into development?
It was huge, you know. I also would like to say like half of the experience in your work environment is also the team you're with. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you have a really cool job but a very lousy team, that it's not great because they're not gonna allow you to bring your full self to the table and that type of stuff. But yeah, mentorship is great. You know, that's where like you need to be humble. You know, you need to know that these people actually know more than you and not get defensive when they're correcting you or telling you that you should probably like try to do this differently. And yeah, I mean it was huge, and it was like all sorts of people, you know. That team was mostly female, and they were like really great mentors for me, and I stay in touch with most of them up until today. So even if you switch jobs, it's good to like stay in touch with all of these folks because you're building a community and you never know, like sometimes you might be able to give them something, you know, like sometimes you might need them but sometimes they might need you, and it's just about like sheltering and helping each other, and like that's the same with minority groups too, I would say.
Right. That's good.
So I wanted to ask, so I'm gonna try to go down this list of Q&A that people have like submitted. So this is a little bit of from Sarai Williams. So for JP, to you, what makes a story great?
when it comes from an honest place. I guess I was just talking about that, right? But it's I mean, in Disney animation, as you all know, or maybe don't, but we don't take pitches. But in Amazon we did, you know, and like also with like our filmmakers when they're like crafting their own stories, you can definitely tell when it's coming from an intimate place where like the story that they're telling means something to them, you know, and it doesn't need to be their biography, but like if it's coming from a pure place, they have something to say, and they're creating characters that matter to the creator, then that's what makes the story great, you know. And I love to say I like working because then there's like that misconception sometimes that you're like working in development and it's like, which is not the case at Disney Animation at all, but like some places they like to say that it's executive driven, but not even then. Like if you're a good executive, you like to work with like great creators that are more chefs and less cooks, I like to say. Like if you're gonna be a creator, be a
That's
chef,
good. I like
you
that
know.
actually.
And like when
I
I'm
like that.
here and you're,
Yeah.
yeah, and like I'm gonna taste your food and tell you, well, chef, maybe you can add a little bit more spice to it, but I'm not gonna tell you, oh, don't make shrimp anymore. Like turn it into a
I like that
vegetarian dish.
actually.
Like if your dish is about a shrimp, like
Sure.
go for it, you know.
That's a good
Uh,
tip. Uh,
so Malik, A42 asks, what was your pivotal moment in your career that enabled you to rise into your current role?
So I would say those like learning moments in Amazon and like stepping like thinking outside the box. The other one that I touched on it earlier, but that like that moment where you're like, you know what, like I need to make a change. Like that moment when I was still an engineer and like I'm like I need to go to a therapist and like I really need to make a turn.
mhm.
But it's true. Like to me, that's probably like one of the most important moments of my life when like you own up to is like, well, this is not making me 100% happy. Like, what within my power can I do to actually take the step forward? And it's super scary, and it's like a moment of like bravery, but like it's totally worth it. And like if you fall, that's okay, but you took it and you won't have regrets.
Yeah, that's great.
That's
Hey,
awesome.
JP, I'm going to combine a couple questions for you. I'm seeing in the chat here. What is your day to day like, and like what is creative development? If you had to just explain it in, like, we know you're a storyteller, we know you have all this great experience, but you had to explain it in simple terms. What is that position?
So, someone in creative development, what they do is they shepherd a story from the beginning, from its inception, all the way until it's ready to be produced. And that means, that can mean many things. Like in Disney animation, that means sitting with because we start with the Disney animation, we don't take pitches. So we start with the director or the filmmaker. Or filmmakers, and then we literally have coffee with them and like talk about like what type of story they want to tell, and we'll help them craft like 3 or more ideas that then they will pitch to Jen Lee and other directors, and that's kind of how we help them shape the story from nothing. But the creative executives are with them all along the journey, and then when the story gets chosen, we help them find research and resources and any type of tool that will help that project move forward creatively, you know. So it can bringing in an expert. Sometimes there's field trips or research trips or like all of those things. But again, those are not vacations. Those are like a lot of hard work because it is a process of discovery. And then another big thing that we do is we'll find a writer, which is like awesome. That's like one of my favorite parts of my job because you get to talk, because we read scripts of every kind. We read like, that's where we do read horror films. Like we'll read like R-rated comedies because we're looking for the point of view of the writer. We're looking for a person that will come and like help continue developing the movie. And so there's the writer search of it all, and then there's the creative feedback, you know, because we have been around for a while and we have been seeing projects for a while, and we kind of know what things to look for to like make a story work. So there's that part of it too. Outside of Disney, a big part of someone in development is finding pitches and taking pitches, you know? So it's like, I would say like a good like 30% of your time is spent like in taking like general pitch meetings and like sitting and like hearing people's ideas. And then the idea that works out for the company or like what you want to move forward with, then you'll put an option on it, and then you'll get the rights to develop that project with that creator for like around a year. It can be a little bit more, a little bit less, and then if it feels ready, then it'll be put up for consideration for production, and that's kind of how you get the shows done, you know. But you'll write several drafts of the script, and you're kind of like shepherding all of that process.
So that job really changes per studio. It can mean different.
It can mean different things, but in general, it's mostly the second version that I pitched to you. Like the Disney animation version is pretty unique. What I used to do at Amazon and what most folks do in development is more of like finding the piece of IP, like taking pitches, optioning books, like I was mentioning with the Latinx one, you know? It's kind of like bringing in the projects. And then after you bring in the project, you'll work with the creators that are attached to the project to get it to a good place where it can hopefully get a green light.
Right.
Yeah. Very cool.
And so I wanted to keep down like that path of like this is an interesting question. I always think about this question, but like it's a question that we always like pose in these things. But what do you know now that you wish you had known then, and what advice that you can give your younger self? And that is so Back to the Future for me. I don't even know. I don't even know what the hell I would do. But you, Marty, but you being like who you are now and what you accomplish now, I guess I would.
Two things are coming to mind, and they're probably not what this person is expecting. But one of them is putting yourself out there and like work on your confidence. Because I was not a confident kid, you know, so like I would tell, it's hard, yeah. So I would tell myself, it's just as important for you to learn how to be confident and to have those social skills and that type of stuff, and like really work on them as much as you're working on your other skills. So I would say that's a huge one. The other one is good people can also be successful, because I think there's that myth in Hollywood that like you need to be a jerk to be successful. My experience has taught me otherwise. Like I really, and I have never been able to be a jerk because I don't know. I don't think I'm a jerk, but I like the people that a lot of the mentors I have worked with aren't jerk either, you know? So it's being a good person will also get you far in the Hollywood game. Like that's what I would tell people, that like don't be afraid of being a good guy, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. No, for sure.
That's awesome. I'm seeing another question here. And by the way, you are a good guy.
By the way,
who are you, Trent? Like that's not like, of course he would save the eagle. Like, of course he would.
Okay, so I'm seeing a question here from May. I might know. I think this might be May from back home. I went to school with May. This might be. But she says, "Hi JP. First off, thank you for having this session with us. My question is, how exactly did you keep yourself going, keep yourself optimistic, and when you tried all those different career paths and found out they weren't for you, how did you stay on top of things and keep going?" And I think a lot of people go through that. Like you said, that's a 1.5 year stretch that you faced of just trial and error. How do you keep going, keep motivated?
You know, that's also something that I think is important to touch on, because a lot of, I guess, people would consider me, like, again, I was saying they would consider me outgoing and like extroverted. A lot of people consider me super optimistic. And I would say, I guess I am, but the dirty little secret is there's a lot of pain and suffering behind the smile. And like, that is true about any optimistic person you probably encounter, you know, because I feel like sometimes you're like, oh, the cheery guy always like, it's like the penny that always like falls on the right side. It's like, that is not true, you know, like there was a lot of like suffering. There was a lot of tears. There are like moments where like, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, between that period when I graduated and I got that job, I was kind of an internship because you kind of have to like stay in the country. There's this whole thing called OPT and you need to be employed or you can't be here. So I was doing an internship, but at the same time, it was an unpaid internship because they love those. And I was very sad because I couldn't really find a job, you know? And it was like 6 months. It was 6 months of like, I just can't figure this out. Like, what happened? Like, I left everything. Like, I sacrificed like a lot of different lives I had already had back in Mexico. And by the way, I didn't leave Mexico because I don't like Mexico. I would still live in Mexico if I could. Like, I came here because of the industry and because I knew I could work in Disney and the industry. That's why I'm here. I love my country and I would still be there. But yeah, I think that's the key. Everyone suffers. Like, you're not alone, you know? Like, and I think it's good for people to hear this. Like, you'll see the cheery people that are smiling like, no, they probably went through hell and back again, you know? But you're just not seeing those moments in their life. But yeah, unemployment was a real thing for me, and I was able to overcome it. And it's patience. It's like working really hard. It's not giving up. It's like keep doing it until it happens. There's no way around it, unfortunately.
GP,
JP.
GP, you're speaking to my soul, man. You're speaking to my soul. I really wanted to get to this really quick question from Mansi, and I think it's relatable. She asked, or he, any advice on dealing with rejection and self-doubt?
Wow.
It's a loaded question.
Yeah. Wow. You know, it's something that I would say again is like at one moment in my life I was like very not secretive, but I didn't like to overshare like my moments of not success. And I feel like that has been a mistake because I feel like counting on the people, like this sounds cheesy as hell, but counting on the people you love and like actually opening up to them and leaning into your network of friends and like that will help, you know, because your friends are your friends for a reason and they see the best in you. And your mom, talk to your mom. Like, mom will always like lift you up, right? I think just like looking back to like what you already have and being grateful for the people you have and the people you cherish, all of the things you've already accomplished. It's also good to remind you that like, okay, it might feel like a failure right now, but the reason why I even made it to this interview in this like whatever studio that rejected me is because I got into the school. It's because I already like created this, like in the case of artists, like this really amazing portfolio. Is like it's very easy to forget about everything you've built up to that point and like forget to celebrate your past accomplishments just because you're caught up in the moment of denial. I don't know.
Yeah, JP, that's awesome, man. I'm seeing a lot of chats go by saying like, yes, moms, and yes, like big shout out to moms out there. You know, I think you're speaking for a lot of you know, Disney, the people we work with, because I think the misconception when you're outside of the business is that everyone just goes to CalArts and then you graduate and you get a job at Disney. But the real fact is, you know, at least in our circle of friends, is we all suffered unemployment. We suffered doubt. We moved back home with our parents. You know, we all go through that, and we lean on our friends a lot to get us there. So, I mean, you're speaking from the heart there, and I 100% agree with you.
And another thing that came to mind as well is those, like, when you're a part of a minority group, like, there's organizations out there that you should sign up for. And like, that's like, I also want to like do a shout out to like Latinx in animation, because I'm a part of that, and I love Brian and Magdiela, like what these people have done to like make sure that those communities come together and have that support system. And you'll meet people there. You'll meet people that are like you, that are going probably through very similar things of what you're going through. Is like, go to those events, connect to those organizations. WIA is amazing too, so lean into Rise Up. It's like, Rise Up is a wonderful thing that you guys created, that I think is also creating a network between these people, and like, meet new friends that are kind of like going through the same thing that you're going through, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and like JP said, there, I mean, in that first week or two, Rise Up got going. JP, introduced us to Latinx and WIA, and all
Black
those
and
organizations. Yeah, Black and and all those organizations are just saying, how can we help? Like, we want to support each other to support all of you. So, just the most giving organizations.
Yeah. And so even to close out, because we want to be respectful of your time, JP, is, like, you grew up in Guadalajara, you had a dream to come out here to Hollywood, and there's a lot of us, same thing. Like, I was from Seattle, Trent's from Ottawa, and LA seems so far away, and it seems like a pipe dream. And if we can kind of connect people that are from around the world into like an industry that will, help them, once they come here, I think that's our goal. So I think that's a lot of it is just kind of like, man, you coming from that like small town, and it's not small town, like big city in Guadalajara, into LA, and that's the same thing for us, like for me and Trent. So I think we could inspire people to kind of do the same thing, even though it seems unattainable,
Yeah, again, like, it feels impossible, but all you need to do is try, right? It's like, try. Like, if it doesn't happen, at least when you're 60, you'll remember, it's like, well, at least I tried, so I'm not spiteful. I don't hate life, because like, I at least I gave it a shot. I feel like the worst thing that can happen to you is like, if you're 60 and you're like, oh, remember that thing I really wanted to do when I was 19, and like, I just never went for it,
Right.
So it's like, it doesn't matter how impossible it feels. Like, it's like, do the next right thing, to quote Frozen 2, right? It's like, it's one step at a time, and you need to be patient.
Yeah.
JP, that's awesome. And I thought for a second you might start singing Try Everything from Zootopia, or Next Right Thing. Just quoting Disney songs. I mean, is that how we want to end this? Do we want to do a group sing?
I don't sing well, but you two should.
That's okay.
That's awesome. Amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much, JP, for being with us today. Are there any kind of last things you want to say? That was such. I feel like I got to know you better, and I get to see it work all the time. So this has been great.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I would tell all of you folks is just keep doing it. Like, you'll get, again, all of those things that we talk about, the imposter syndrome. You'll feel like you're not worth it. You are worth it. Like, you just need to find what your version of it is. Like, it doesn't need to be like the version you think it is. Like, experiment, like, think outside the box. I know you can do it, and I believe in all of you. Like, if I could do it, you can do it.
Yes.
Closing word. I'm gonna cry. JP,
Yeah.
amazing, dude. That's amazing, and you're right in line with what we're trying to do. And so thank you so much, man. That was awesome.
No, thank you both. It really is an honor to be able to be a part of this thing you guys started. Like I really like hats off to you. You know, it's like it's really awesome what you've done, and I'm very appreciative.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you for your support. I still remember like day 1 or 2, you sent me a message, how can I help? And, you know, there's a bunch of people that did that, and it's just so appreciative. So thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
yeah, bye everybody. Wear masks when you go out, I guess, and then you know, be careful. And we love you guys, and thanks for all your support. It's good to see you guys again. We'll see you guys again soon. I think we have something coming up on Saturday, but we hope to see your faces again soon.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys. Bye, JP.
Yeah.
Yo.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you. Thank you.